appointed to the DDA, and then we kind of just started submitting these names from our Gallup pool who wanted to be part of the DDA, and that's what we did. Two of those members at the time were business owners in the city of Inkster. And so my advice is simply this. The most important thing is, what is your plan? What I mean by your plan, are you interested in creating a business district? Are you interested in creating a culture arts district? Are you interested in creating an educational zone? And the reason I'm asking those questions is because once you have a plan and that vision plan together, then you can decide what boards and commissions will best fit that. I always tell people, start small, work your way up. If it's a library commission, if you have a culture arts commission, in your city, join that. Why? Because Africans love culture arts. That is a very powerful way to not just influence policy related to culture arts, but also there's dollars attached to that. And so our community, in Omaha, culture arts, whether it's planning commission. Planning commissions are very, very powerful. Oftentimes, we like to look to the federal government. As the top of the mountain. And the reality is, you have a lot of power at the local level of government, especially with your planning commission. They control the zoning. How you zone an area of your community determines where your wealth goes. That's true. That's historically proven. And so, we're trying to get to Congress and be one vote out of 435 members, as opposed to, or 535 members, whatever, as opposed to you sitting on a planning commission of 9 or 11 people, and you're talking about rezoning an area that you don't have to say this is for African folks. If you're rezoning an area that may be exclusive for our community to build direct culture arts in the whole, or even technology, and that is a great way to attract new businesses and attract a sizable tax base down the road. So it depends on what you want to do locally, whether it's culture arts, technology, or otherwise, and that determines what board and commission you can investigate to get appointed to. Most cities here in the United States, small towns and otherwise, they require you to fill out an application. I highly recommend you become friends with someone on your city council or even your mayor's office that can help push your process down the road. We have 2 members in GABA here in Michigan that are on the planning commission. One is in Romulus, the other is right in Inkster. The one in Inkster was already on the planning commission when she joined GABA, but we pushed hard for our logistics director to be on the planning commission in Romulus. Because of the activity that we're doing in the city of Romulus, he decided that the planning commission would be best for him, and that's what we did.
So what we have, what we've seen in the community is people with a lot of potentials to make changes on these boards. We have a lot of those people. However, they themselves don't think that they are good enough to be on these boards. They themselves feel sometimes that, because of my accent, should I even try it? Will they even listen to anything I have to say? How do we empower our own community members to take this step and encourage them to apply for these things?
Well, I get that question all the time, and this is what I tell them simply. You have people that don't look like us that have accents, and they're on these boards and commissions. So why not give it a shot? You take the first step, you never know where you'll end up at. Myself, I don't have an accent. I was raised here in the U.S. My dad came from Nigeria and went to school here and met my mom. But in Inkster, there was a rumor early on in Inkster, when we first gave our first address to City Council 7 years ago, that we wanted to bring African and African American and Caribbean people together here in the city of Inkster to build a new community. And the rumor was this guy, Akindele, he's new. He's trying to take over the city with Africans. Well, I'm not new to Inkster because I used to teach. I used to substitute teach in Inkster. I wasn't new to the community. I was very familiar with the community, but that was the rumor. And then when the other mayor, the second mayor that came under our tenure, he made a big rumor about that. He said this man is trying to take your money. He's trying to give your money to the Africans, and they're going to take over the city and push you out. And I told everybody that's absolute nonsense. We're not interested in pushing you out. What we're interested in is we noticed that this area on the south side of Inkster has not grown in 15, 20 years. We know it's impoverished. No one has discussed it. No one has discussed an EB-5 investor visa to attract foreign direct investment into this community. No one has talked about opportunity zones or anything to help reboost this community. And so when I have those conversations with those people who've lived in Inkster 15, 20, 30, 40 years, they understand where I'm coming from, that I'm more of a partner than someone that's trying to take them over. So, the first thing I tell our community is whether you have an accent or not, is the reality is you need to take that first step, because the person that don't look like you, that don't have the same skin color as you, that person has an accent also. And that person is sitting on a planning commission or economic development commission, making recommendations and policy decisions to give to your city council to pass that may have an effect on you positively or adversely. And so we have to have a seat at the table, and boards and commissions are very, very key of making that work.
And one thing I want to point out, there are always openings on city boards and commissions, both at the City of Omaha level. So if you were to go to the mayor's office, cityofomaha.org, and you type in boards and commissions, you'll see current openings. There are plenty of committees that they have listed that have current openings. So that's a way that you could get involved at the local level. Here in Omaha, the governor's office in Lincoln also have a website, the governor of the state of Nebraska's website, and they have current board openings constantly. So they are always looking for people. And I think, Akindele, you are right in saying that you have to take the first step, just apply. And the thing is, they have openings all the time because not a lot of people want to donate their time, to be part of these boards. And so that's an opportunity for us that are newer here but want to make an impact to step up.
Just to piggyback what you're saying, you're absolutely correct. Cities, not the federal government, and I tell people this all the time in presentations. Cities, not the federal government, are going to be the catalyst of change in this decade and beyond. Everybody knows that. So us going to the federal government for help, the federal government, I've lobbied at the federal government level, is a very, very, very slow and tedious process. You take a look at what's going on with HR 40. That's the reparations bill. They finally just got a hearing on HR 40 after 30 years. This was a bill that was pushed by former Congressman John Conyers here in Detroit. And, when he first introduced it, people laughed at him. Now, after 30-some-odd years that he's passed away, all of a sudden we get a hearing about it because now there's an appetite for it. And it's a very, very slow process. But at the same token, what you could do at the local level of government, you could really, really impact your community in ways unimaginable very quickly. Because you could touch your city council person, you could touch your board and commission members, you could touch your mayor. So we have to start thinking local to build power up from the ground up to make a difference nationally and beyond that.
So we have one question in the chat. What is the first step to position a community to the economics of Africa?
Well, if the first thing, and I'll tell you what we've done, the first thing we've done is educate those people who are influential, whether they're on the boards and commissions or the mayor's office or city council. For example, I mentor personally our Trinidadian city councilwoman in Inkster. I personally mentor her. And I mentor her not just on looking at Inkster in the 21st century focus or framework. I also mentor her about how a country like Trinidad and Tobago can play a role in economic development in the city of Inkster. No one's never talked to her about that. So, educating your policymakers and your stakeholders about why this community is ripe for development to do business with Africa. It's a matter of education. It's a matter of showing them in black and white the numbers in terms of the fiscal numbers, and most importantly, because while everybody is so focused on insular things, which most of the time is nonsensical, positioning your city and your community as a stakeholder to do business with Africa. What's interesting, and I'll give you an example. What's interesting about certain communities in Africa is that the United States have what is called a treaty agreement with certain countries. So Togo, which is the largest Togolese community in Omaha, you have a treaty agreement with the U.S. That means those folks can come to the U.S. with an E1, E2 visa, depending on what they want to do. So E2 visa is your investor visa. It's your sister visa to the EB5. And so, again, you have an advantage there. So it's just a matter of now linking the wealth between those nations to do business and build up those communities. This is information that our community don't know. E2 visa, treaty agreement, whether it's Togo, Senegal, Cameroon, Liberia, the DRC, they're able to use those visas to do business here in the U.S. And we're able to, as a community, do business here and link that wealth back home. And so there's a lot that can be done. But the first step to position the community is to really just educate them as to why this is necessary. The conversations that we're having about when it comes to AGOA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, when it comes to U.S.-Africa policy, when it comes to doing business with Africa, anything like that is very unpopular in the U.S., unfortunately, especially in the black community. It's very unpopular. Because we're not talking about Black Lives Matter. We're not talking about police brutality. I mean, we can talk about those things, but when it comes to economic development and building legacy for our children, linking the wealth, it's unfortunately not popular. But that comes again from education to raise the stake as to why this is necessary in the 21st century.
That's an interesting point that you raise. Within the Midlands African Chamber, our goal is to advocate for businesses, whether they are, owned by Africa-born Africans or owned by diaspora-born Africans, African Americans included. So we want to bridge that gap and bring everybody together around the cause of economic development in our communities and building these legacies for our children, all of our children. And so, what are some of the ways in which you have done that in Michigan?
What are the ways of, say it one more time, I'm sorry.
What are some of the ways in which you were able to bring together the African American and the African populations in Michigan around the goals that your organization had?
I always start with, me being an educator, I always start with common interests. And common interests can include music, it can include what's going on for the day. I mean, it's not hard to bring us together. It's not hard to bring us together when we talk about music. It's not hard to bring us together when we're talking about safe streets and safe communities. It's not hard to bring African Americans and Africans together. It's just not. What's hard is, when it becomes challenging, is when you start thinking in a futuristic framework like I do in the 21st century. Showing people that we need to start thinking global at the local level. That's where the challenge is at. It's not because some are just not interested. Others just don't understand that kind of process. And so, again, you have to educate folks. But bringing people together, what we've done, I mean, GABA is very, very diverse. We have folks from Nigeria, we have folks from Haiti, we have folks from Togo, we have folks from Cameroon, we have African Americans, that are part of GABA. Saying we have one white gentleman who's been with me since day one. That's part of GABA, and so we're very diverse in terms of bringing people together and moving the whole process forward. It's just a matter of the challenge becomes when you talk about economics and how the economic impact can benefit all of us. Because sometimes people feel like when you're talking on that level, you're looking at gentrification and displacement. And that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about gentrifying a community. We're not talking about displacement. What we're doing is talking about building a bigger tax base so that our children can eat down the road. And that's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to open this to the participants as well. Do you have any questions for Akindele? I know Deborah always has questions. I always volunteer her.
Hey, very nice to meet you, and thank you for doing this.
No problem.
Very informative. So how do you bridge those initial issues with the tensions with Africans and African Americans? Because it can be really hard and hostile. You've given an example of, people spreading rumors about you and what you're trying to do. But it's very divisive and could actually stop any progress or gesture you want to make.
Mm-hmm. Well, they still spread rumors about me. That just comes with the territory. I've been doing this over 30 years. As an educator in politics, they always spread rumors about you. That comes with the territory. If you're not used to people slandering you and try to bring you down, this is not for you. Not telling anybody that. Period. So one thing about me is people understand that I'm no nonsense when it comes to trying to bring people together. I'm all for women empowerment. I said it up front. I'm all for women empowerment, not just in terms of business and economics, but just for moral support as well. Because when you educate a man, you educate an individual, you educate a woman, you educate a whole nation. And so that is something very important to me. That's the first bridge that we connect. The second bridge is understanding who we are. We are Black people. We're not. When a police officer pulls you over, they're not going to ask if you're Nigerian or Togolese or Cameroonian. They're going to see a Black person, and so you have to follow the rules of the road if you want to go back home alive. That of a Black person. I keep reminding folks that we have the same common interest. I was raised in the United States. I did not listen to Afrobeat too much later in my life. I was raised on hip hop. I used to try to break dance. I was killing myself back in the day. This is the culture I was raised in. But connecting the dots with African Americans and Africans, you have to find this common ground. Music, worship is a big one. Faith-based is a big one to connect the dots. Those are the things that we have to work on strategically and methodically. To educate and empower our communities is one. That's the reality of the situation. My father is Nigerian. My mother is African American. Seriously. And so my father moved back to Nigeria when I was 5 years old. So I was raised in this culture. And I understand it. I also tell folks the most important thing that we cannot do is allow external forces to divide us. Because while they got us fighting each other as African American and African tensions you brought up, those same white folks and other people are going to Africa, spin the wheel, pick a country, and they exploit the resources and they make themselves rich while we're fighting over something as trivial as an accent. So we have to shift our mentality and shift our way of thinking in understanding the importance of our role in the 21st century as it pertains to empowerment.
May I
Yes.
ask a question or share?
Yes, go ahead, Miss Paula.
Yes, and just all due respect to our president, Mr. Kendallay, and to the host for this great event, and we're excited to be part of it. And I guess my thought and sharing, and I don't always share in forums like this, but I feel compelled to do so, as a poor little African American girl from the South. And yet, in GABA, our president has welcomed all of us. It didn't matter whether we had those direct that we know of African roots or not. And so perhaps my question that I would put out there for him to share is, you know, how he envisioned that, because as we move with GABA, as we move in NAPAC, I quite honestly don't feel that I'm treated differently. My husband and I do not feel we're treated differently. So he has made that, and the people of GABA have made that, and NAPAC have made that happen. So I don't know if there was an intentional thought around that, but perhaps that's something that you could share, Mr. President.
No, Dr. Watkins. Dr. Watkins is one of our GABA board directors. One of our GABA board directors who was doing a wonderful job. Who's doing a wonderful job with cyber education, and as part of our cybersecurity in the diaspora series that we host periodically as part of our GABA platform. No, it wasn't intentional. I was raised in the U.S. My co-founder, Rariana Amake, she was raised in the U.S. as well. And so we as Nigerian Americans were raised in this culture. We understand the ins and outs of our culture back home and here. I think the most important thing, though, is, again, we need to come to the realization that other communities continue to move forward economically. I live in Metro Detroit. This is the largest Middle Eastern population outside the Middle East. These folks continue to move forward, regardless of their cultural differences, whether they're Lebanese or Yemenis. Regardless of that cultural differences, they continue to use economics as a tool of both community development and political power. We have to start doing the same thing, and the way we do the same thing is to understand the power we have by sitting on those boards and commissions, owning property, being homeowners. Being a homeowner is power, because your homeowner is a taxpayer. Okay, being invested in your schools. Maybe you want to join a school board to have a voice for those children who are African or Caribbean. But we have to start being engaged in our community if we want to level up our power. We do have power. We have power. We have faith-based power, economic power. We have political power when we vote. But we have to be serious about cultivating that power and making the right decisions and building the right relationships with people so that we can move to the next step. But it was never, I don't even pay attention to all those things, whether you're African American or African or Caribbean in GABA. My question is, can you connect with your fellow teammate, and can you represent us in your respective space? And of course, if you need help, reach out to me. 100%. I think everybody on the team knows that. So, it's a team effort, and you have to lead with some empathy and show that you really care about your membership. That's how we grow.
Can I say something?
Of course. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment that, we are so powerful, both African American and Africans. If we come together, we are a great force to reckon with. So we just have to find, the mutual ground, how we can come together and build on each other's strength. And that's what is missing in our community. And Dr. Akindele mentioned that education, I think, would be the greatest thing to bring us together. Thank you.
Thank you. And I agree. Go ahead, Deborah. Go ahead.
I don't have any question per se. I just have some comments. When it comes to promoting unity among the African diaspora as well as the African American, Akindele has done, Mr. President, he's done a very good job and excellent job. And I can attest to that. Just recently, I believe 2 weeks ago, one of the members who is African American actually relocated to Ghana. And this is all about what they was able to accomplish. And we have so many members that travel back to Africa, to start investing. And these are African American. And when it comes to promoting unity among ourselves, here as the African diaspora, I remember when I started my business, at some point, Akindele approached me and he said, okay, you and her name Brittany, you do the same thing. Why don't you guys come together? Like, you are not competitors. Come together and you'll see greater results. And we are helping each other, and I'm telling you, it's amazing what we are able to accomplish. The collaboration between me and Brittany, it's amazing. Like, you refer time to me, I'll refer time to her, and we share profit. So it's amazing what Akindele was able to do. There's no difference. And like you said, there are so many African Americans within this group, and we have a platform. All we do is to share information, promoting, one another. It's amazing, this community. I have never been part of any community such as the GABA and felt so comfortable that I'm not competing with any other person. We share among ourselves, and when there are opportunities, we just put it out there. Whoever is available and is willing just takes that opportunity. There is no competition, like absolutely no competition among ourselves.
That's excellent.
And Deborah is correct. I always tease Deborah because my mother's name is Deborah, so she's a special person in my heart. And I just want to say this about Deborah. She's really instrumental in GABA, both her and Medea. And both of them, I remember the first time I met both of them, and they both sat me down and said, you do understand that we have the largest Togolese community in Omaha. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I'm like, first it was Omaha. So, I'm thinking about Omaha. Why Omaha? I went back home and I did some research and come to find out this is true. And we started having conversations, and Deborah since then has just been introducing me to a slew of people, including you, Kareem. And so, how we ended up here tonight. So, when you look at things like what she's doing with the business, Alpha Swag Magazine and Media, which we should all be supporting her with Alpha Swag Media and Magazine. We should be getting it out like Jesus, seriously, and really promoting that magazine, because that's a voice for us in the African diaspora, not just in Omaha, but globally. I have my brother Timmy Tope on the line here. He's right here in Michigan with us. He has Monzobia Media magazine, and so he's doing the same thing. He's a very important brother in our community. Shaking hands with dignitaries, not just locally but internationally. All of us, whether you're inside the GABA network or not, we all work together to showcase to the world that we are one. That's really it. Whether you speak French or Yoruba, or you speak English, or you speak Jive, it doesn't matter. We're all one. We're all one community, and that's important. That we have to let those who are continuing to perpetuate ignorance. We have to break down the walls of ignorance by showcasing that this is real, this is a movement, and this is what we're going to do to build legacies for our children.
Kemi Tope, you had a comment earlier. Did you want me to read your comment in, or did you want to speak?
Yeah, I can speak.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that Akindele Akinyemi has been very, very consistent, especially in the promotion of unity and between Africans in diaspora and Africans born in Africa. And he has been somebody in the community that we all look forward to. His passion for Africa is priceless. And since I knew him, he has been consistent. That's all I can say. So that's why whatever he said there, that's what happened. I mean, this is first time that somebody will use his network to ensure that so many Africans are put in board, especially in the city of Insta. And I've gone to the city, I see all the good things that Africans are doing just because he took responsibility and decided to carry people along with him. He's a great leader, so we appreciate him.
That's awesome. You know, I think one of the big takeaways from this session today is for us to be more intentional and plan how we want to go about infiltrating the system, right? So have a plan for what we want to accomplish here in Omaha to begin with, and then identify which boards will help us accomplish those plans. Then identify community members that we want to support and push and encourage to run for those boards or to put in the application for those boards. Identify who our candidates are for local elections, since, you know, as Akindele identified, that's where we can make a change. That's where the power is. So rather than, you know, getting all excited about presidential and, you know, the national stuff, let's start at the local level and then try to get our foot in the door, be in those rooms where those discussions are happening at. And there are some organizations here in Omaha that help women, for instance, that want to run. So I don't know if there is an organization in particular that helps Black people that want to run for local office, but that may be something we need to look into.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's funny you say that, because here's what I'm going to share with you. To answer your question directly, there are tons of organizations to help Black women run for office. Myself, as a national political director of NAPAC, the USA Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee, I bring my 20 years of experience in politics and public policy to the table, and mentor people to run for office. It's the young lady right here who's with me tonight, Sia Fino, who spoke earlier, is running for Prince George County Council in District 3 in Prince George County, Maryland. And she's from Sierra Leone originally. And this is her second time running. I followed her the first time when she ran for the House Delegate in District 24 in Maryland. She didn't make it, but I saw the passion in her. So I want to invest in, she'll tell you right now, I want to invest in you. And I told her, we're going to stick together because I see the vision, I see your heart. And we have been on this journey together for quite some time until this point. So this time we want to make sure she wins. You know, she told me last night, you make my head explode with all this knowledge. It just takes me a minute, but it's making her a better candidate to present into the community. I do that in my sleep for any candidate, especially women. And the reason why I focus on women, because there's so many organizations focused on men, per se, and that's good. We need a balance. But Black women, you know, the way Black women are treated in the political circles, they're very disrespected. You know, they feel like their bills is emotional, not logical. I hear all kinds of nonsense. I really, really take personal responsibility to mentor Black women in politics. Whether they win or lose, that's not here or there. The bottom line is that we're getting the message out. And that's what I'm doing with folks like Sia.
That's amazing.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Dr. Akindele is a godsend. He started following me. He sent me a friend request 4 years ago. well, I think somebody sent him my profile or something, and he had been the greatest mentor ever. And I am sticking by him. You know, he can be hard sometimes, but I really appreciate that. And let me say this to our Black sisters and our African sisters. You know, I've been trying to pull, you know, as Dr. Akile is lifting me up, I want to bring the Africans as well with me, but it's so difficult, you know, for African women to get in politics. I don't know why is that? You know, like I was looking for an African woman to run my campaign, and everybody that I reach out to or don't want to be up front, I want to be at the back. I don't want to be up. I said, if we want to make a change, if we want people to know that we're here, and in my county, you know, we are the most influential, we are the most educated, but we are not represented. And this is a problem. We pay, most of the homes that we have here are owned by African and African Americans, but we don't have anybody to represent us. You know, we have to get involved locally. You know, we pay attention all the time to presidential election, our Congress people, our senators, but the power is down at the local level, because that's where you can physically touch the lives of the individual. And we cannot transform a community without transforming the ordinary people's lives. So this is where I come in, and I want to be the blueprint for African women, young African American women, to say, yes, I too belong in politics. I want to sit at the table. We are tired of getting the crumbs from the table, but we too want to sit there and make the decisions that's going to rule us for 40, 50 years. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting all of you. I'm honored to be part of this great session.
See, I think you've made a fan for life right here, you know. And it's such a pleasure to meet you, and you know, I'll be happy to support whichever way we can your campaign. You know, when Akindele was speaking about, you know, having tried a couple of times, you know, for this position and then trying again, I think he brings forward a very good point. You know, it's not all the time that you succeed at something that you try the first time, you know, and just the process of even trying, you know, for that, being a candidate, you know, the first time, and then being a candidate again, you do things differently, because you've already learned so much the first time. And then the third time, you do things even more differently. You have a better understanding of the process and what to do. You know, I went through a similar experience a couple of years, well, last year and then the year before that, when I ran for judgeship here in Omaha. You know, so what I've learned during that first campaign, quote unquote, for judgeship, you know, helped me, and I built on the second time I applied. Even though I did not get the position both times, I feel like I'm a much better person, more learned person, having gone through that process. And now I can be in a position to tell somebody that wants to do it too what to do, you know, or be in a position where I can support them, I can mentor them in the process, or be in a position where if I decide to run again, I can do things much better than I did the last two times. So I really encourage you. I applaud your resilience and determination, and, you know, you have a supporter here.
One thing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm sorry. One thing I want to say, Kareem, about judgeships. The most important thing is to be part of a system. And what I mean by a system is more like a bar association. A lot of my friends here in Metro Detroit who are judges, they're judges because they started off as attorneys in private practice. They belong to a couple of influential bar associations. And that bar associations sometimes can lobby on your behalf to become judge. That happens a lot here. It happens in other areas. It's just, again, I think in this decade, we as African people have to step out of our comfort zones and really start taking over the community in which we live in. Yes. We're taxpayers, we're parents, our children go to public schools. You know, we pay attention to where our tax dollars are going. We have a stake at the table when it comes to infrastructure. We have a stake at the table when it comes to schools. We have a stake at the table when it comes to environmental issues. We have a stake at the table when it comes to small, medium-sized business enterprises or minority women business enterprises. We have a stake at the table when it comes to digital infrastructure. And so we have to really push our voices and push our plan as a chamber, as a business association, and represent our community the way we see fit to make things happen. So, I didn't know where GABA was going to be 7 years. When we first started, it was only 4 of us. It was just 2 Nigerians and 2 Gambians that started the Global African Business Association. And look where we are today. And we're still growing. People are still inquiring about joining. People still want to know more about our network. Everybody who's come to this network is blessed. And you heard Deborah, you heard Dr. Watkins speak tonight about that. So we believe in partnership and collaboration. We believe in helping our other African chambers like this one, and really building a network of trust, accountability, and integrity so we can all have a voice at the table, because America is changing, whether people like it or not. America is changing, and they know it. That's why they're introducing all these bills on voter suppression and getting rid of critical race theory, which a friend of mine was a state senator. We were talking about that earlier. They introduced a bill here in Michigan about that. We have to address that as an organization. But we have a lot of work to do, and we're all in this together. So anything I can do to help, to assist, I'm here for it. I'm here for the Midlands African Chamber. We have your back 1,000,000%.
I have a comment. I know the time is against us, but I would like to add something to everything that was already said. When it comes to the African diaspora, one thing I've noticed is that when we reach that point of having some type of power when it comes to economics, then we are respected, then doors start opening for us. Let's take the example of Inkster, where they built that grocery store. That's something powerful. So even though America is changing, here in Omaha, we still have that problem. When you sit down with African American, when you have one-on-one with them and you present your vision and everything, they in front of you, they tend to be supportive, but behind you, it's like, okay, we are still different. I start seeing that change when it comes to, being involved in something big that they're building, and you're able to sponsor, you're financially able to, participate, then it starts breaking that barrier. So I encourage the African diaspora to be aware of that when it comes to, having that economic power, to whatever you need to do to start, investing or changing, your status when it comes to having that financial power, changing your status. That way, we can gain respect from this community. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you for joining us on Power Hour today. Dr. Akinele, thank you. Thank you to all of the GABA officials that have joined us today. We really appreciate it. We look forward to a fruitful collaboration with GABA. Hopefully, we'll be able to meet in person either at one of your events or at our Pitch Black event, which is coming up in August. You all are invited. But we are very grateful to you for participating in this Power Hour. We can only build on to what we've learned today. I think for Nebraska and our African community here, we are young as a whole. On average, we are young. A lot of us came here maybe 20 years or so ago as students. So we are only now coming into our own. And we are only now coming to the point where we are accepting the fact that we are here to stay and not just here for school or not just here for a few years and go home. We've now accepted that we are here to stay, and we are in that frame of mind now where being here to stay, we have to build that legacy for our children. And so hopefully we can continue collaborating with GABA, learning from one another, and following in your path.
No problem. Anytime, anytime. And just let us know what you need. We'll make it happen.
Thank you. Now, please, all of you, mark your calendar to join us if you're following on Facebook or on Zoom. Please mark your calendar to join us again in June, and at that point, we'll welcome Dr. Schultz with the Nebraska Small Business Community Development Center here in Omaha, and his team that will talk to us about budgeting for small businesses. Thank you all again, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.